like I said, I'd be hard pressed to get up here and stand in this room with so many loving men. This is not to take away from the women. I know sometimes it goes into the whole back and forth, but so many loving men that have shared so much in their time, not just in the church, but in the world. You know, the reward to be looked at as a fatherly way. So it'd be hard for me not to point to our Father. And we know in the prayers I could easily go to Matthew, Jesus said, "Hey, pray to our Father." But I like to go old school sometimes. And when Jeremiah was prophesizing to Israel, one of the things the Lord said, He said, "But I said, how long would I put you among the children and give you pleasant land and splendid inheritance in a host of nations? And I said, call me my Father, and do not turn away from me." Happy Father's Day to my Father
And to you.
and to the fathers in the room. Okay. But let's get back to what we was talking about last week. Now, normally, if this was Bible study, I would have a whole group of people I could say where I was at. But I feel like if I asked that question on Sunday, I might get, you should know. Right? Matthew. All right. So we know we're in Matthew. We know last week we were talking about the true rule, right? We see certain things in the text, and I didn't want to just breeze by it and give you a empty understanding. I explained to you how the devil doesn't have an army, how this army is just the disobedience. Consider it this: all are obedient until you're disobedient, and therefore, when you are disobedient, you fall into the army. You get what I'm saying? Because your actions make you want to his. Now, again, if you are saved, you can't be his. I just want to let you know that when we see this place that was prepared, right, for the devil, there's also an opposite preparation. Look for the righteous. It was prepared before the foundation of the world, right? So we see this, but we say, well, what is hell? What is this thing that Jesus is telling them that it's not for you in a way that he's saying it's not for you by saying this was prepared for the devil and his angels? He's telling you this preparation wasn't there from the foundation, because when was the righteous foundation prepared? First, when was the preparation for the disobedient? So we see the disobedience came. This preparation for the disobedient came at a lesser time. So if you see yourself as this prepared for you, then that means you came also at the later time, because you weren't there for the preparation and the foundation of the world. You get what I'm saying? So don't look at what Jesus is saying, well, the devil has an army and that army is going to attack me. No. If you feel like you're being attacked, those are just people who are disobedient. And what we should do to the disobedience as brothers and sisters, turn them back to obedience. So this right here, when we see this, Jesus is not just warning those who felt like they weren't right or did the right thing at the right time. It's also a message to say, turn back from the disobedience. Keep the oil in your lamp lit. Maintain your faith. If you have a talent, share it. No matter how small of a nugget it may be, it may come back one day as a profound boulder that holds weight in someone's life to say, I won't move because when I was young, I bucked against this. But someone who gave me this nugget is now mature. They didn't bury it. They gave it to me so it matured, and the talent that was in them has now grew in me, and it just carries around and is valuable. And if I could just chip a piece off of it and give it to you. So we see that none of this is the army of the devil. It's always been precious things given to us first. But through disobedience, we see that those who were given gifts failed. But why would you bring that up? Adam was given a gift. David was given a gift. Solomon was given a gift. Gifts have always been given. But it's in these gifts that we see that man still has the possibility to fail. I want to point something out. And I made a joke saying the day that man never died. And I want to point it to you that where God is not saying because you're right, you're good, or because you're this, he's already saying because you were already seated there from the foundation of the world. Hear me out. Adam died 930 years old. He didn't live a day. Noah lived more, 950, but he still didn't live a day. So it didn't matter whether God said you're righteous, death still reigned. We see that if you are prepared for the pit, then that's what your preparation for, because death was prepared for those of disobedience. The wages of sin is death. But we see the punishment was never for us to go into the pit. The punishment comes from where you stand in your disobedience. Did the Lord tell you what to do and you didn't do it? Did he tell you where to be and you weren't there? This is what that language says. When they were naked, you didn't. When they were hungry, you didn't. This is saying in a time where I needed you the most, you weren't there. People say, well, God, how, just like the people here. Well, God, when? How? Why? Even the righteous ask the same question. It's not meant for us to know. It's just meant to be obedient to. You could say a lot of things about Noah and that rain. Noah's obedience. We call it faith, how we walk, but that's obedience. Faith is obedience magnified in the work of the believer's life. I believe that God said he was going to do something. Therefore, my actions, my works make me walk in that way unexpectedly of what the work may be needed to be done. Now, are you uninformed of what the work is? Not at all. The Lord outlines the work here. The work is obedience. The work is maintaining the faith. The work is sharing a talent. The work is unrecognizable acts of kindness, meaning you don't know that you're doing it because the Lord has sent you to do something that your heart may not have never thought to do. So we know that the words in the scripture in Matthew does not suggest leadership, but more of alliance. Is your alliance with disobedience or is your alliance with obedience? This pattern is mirrored all throughout scriptures. Adam, his descendants, Abraham, his household, Moses, and those who followed him. And I know I may have repeated a lot of this last week. And Jesus and his disciples. So therefore, we see that this is an alliance as opposed to a charge. So in other words, there is a head in the path of the people that follow that head. I can tell you about the watchers, go in depth about those, but I don't want to take us too far off of what we're seeing here. We're seeing the parables unfold for the body of believers, and it's identifying where you stand, not through my words, but through the words of Jesus Christ. He's asking you, are you faithful? Do you keep your light lit in a place where it is ultimately or possibly dark? You know that it will get dark. You know that the light or the night or the twilight will come. We sit in comfort with beautiful days and sunshine, as if we don't want to agree with the scriptures and our reality, that this book goes forward, not retrograde, not backwards. So it means that everyone in here right now has their lamp lit in the daytime. We have the oil. We've done what we needed to do. No one in here is going to be told to go to the store because they need extra. It's not because we worry about the daylight. We know the night is coming. So this is not just a message for us to keep our lit. Why are we not telling them to go buy oil right now while it's daytime? Well, we are. What happens when you tell somebody to buy oil for a lamp during the daytime? It's the same thing as what happens when somebody tells you, get an umbrella because it's going to rain. We are the ones to prepare, and we keep our talents to ourselves. We sit in a place to where we should echo the word of God, saving souls, not us, but the word that come through us. What is it? Shema, right? Hear, O children of Israel, so you will hear the word that will change you, magnify you, turn you back to your Father. So when we look at everything that's put in path with our talents and we do not use them wisely and bury them in the dirt, we don't only just hurt ourselves, we hurt the ones that's supposed to hear the things that the Lord have made us talented to do. Sometimes it may be hard. This is why this is why the biblical pattern fit. We are the obedient versus the disobedient. We looked at Adam. Adam had his own way. And I know I'm interchanging thought process here, but I want you to understand how obedience looks, not just how obedience feel. Well, I feel obedient because I'm the type that if I see somebody, I would love to help them. This is how obedience looks. This is what Christ is explaining to them, this heart, this posture. Everything that started and all of these actions did not start on an external being. It started internally in a place in the spirit. To give was given in the spirit. To love was given in the spirit. To share your talent. This is in the spirit. This is what we do here. So we see that we have the obedient that follows the spirit through Christ's teachings right here in the parable versus those that don't. But we also see how we can pull those in. You lack the faith. I can't give you faith, but I can show you the one who can increase faith. You feel untalented, like I can only do this. When I tell you, let me show you the one who can give you the talent. You feel like you help. You feel like you do. But are they just acts that you have already planned for kindness versus just genuinely being that person that Christ taps on the shoulder and says, here is your opportunity to do an unintentional act of kindness. Well, Lord, I don't like the way this feels. I know. Lord, it's hard to stay and keep my oil lit when everything is, I know, but I have given it to you before the foundation of the world. Take this gift. Do not be disobedient and go to a place that I never prepared for you. Because every one of these parables end with a door closing, a locking out, and a group of people on the other side. Stern warnings in a parable. We know what side of the door we stand on. But what is the point of standing in a free banquet hall when we see all the bounties and not being like the lepers and saying to ourselves, if we do not do something about this, then this is evil, because we have just taken what we got and kept it for ourselves. So this is also a point to sharing this word as much as it is to warning about it. We see that these ways have multiple ends. We had God's way, Adam's way, Cain's way, Abel's way, the broad path or the narrow path, the serpent's wisdom or God's wisdom. If you don't see that each one of these stories show you that you are either elected or you walk in a path of disobedience, which I think no one in this room does. But the scripture does more than just tell you to go out and be good and to use your talent and to do it. It's letting you know that these things have been given to you by the master at the foundation of the world for his glory so that you can be the light in this world. Jesus was talking here. He was pointing these things out to people who would have said, well, what does this mean? How do I understand this? I believe afterwards the disciples were even confused. Lord, you kind of told them a lot. What do we do about all that? So when you see all of these things happening, he's letting them know there's a clear path, obedience or disobedience. Are you going to the place that was prepared for you, or are you going to a place that was never prepared for you, but because of disobedience, you follow that path? This is what we as believers that have been taken off that path, and now we have an opportunity to do what Peter said, snatch them from the pits of hell. We can do that with what the Lord has been given to us, a spirit of obedience. Even Jude and Peter emphasized that when we talked about the angels, that they could not keep themselves. All right. Jesus in John 8:44, you can make a note, you don't have to go there. He told them, you are your fathers. You are of your father, the devil. Now, a lot of people say, well, wait a minute, Jesus. The devil? Well, were they born? You know, we get so many different things that'll pop up from this. Were they born evil? Was it this? He's telling them the reason why your father, the path that you're on, is because of your disobedience to what stands right in front of you. Salvation, redemption, all of these things you reject. You disobey what God has said was right for your own righteousness. Now go back and look at Matthew 26, right? We've seen in a way that everyone who had an opportunity to interact with the king, the master, what did they do? They took their own righteousness as the value. Well, I shall sleep and not get the oil because that is my righteousness. We don't look at it like that, but it was. They did what was right for them, which made them righteous in their actions, so much so that when they got there, they could ask bold questions like, give me some of your oil. What a self-righteous question. You go get your own oil. So you see that these questions, Lord, I know what I did. I buried my talent in the ground. Another self-righteous question, even when we think that it's not a question that's self-righteous. Lord, when did I? Both ask that same question. When did I? It's a very self-righteous question for God because he's looking at you and saying, when didn't you? When didn't you have an opportunity to do these things? So again, it goes back to saying that this obedience isn't something that's just happenstance to where I can just turn on obedience and turn it off. I'm either obedient to what the Lord has told me to do, and it might not look like anything that you think that the people are telling me to do, versus what the Lord is telling me to do. It may look different. I may look like I got a clown hat on with the ears flapping and everybody else think it's a show, but what may be coming is a circus that's going to come to town, and that circus is going to have healing water, and when it gets there, it's going to give that healing water to everybody who has that clown hat on. You understand how I may look like a fool in an instance of telling you about what is coming, what is here, what is happening, what is all evolving all at the same time, but yet we just have this message for today. Be obedient. Listen to the word. Know where you stand from the foundation of the world and not in a place that was prepared for you, that wasn't prepared for you. All right, so Jude talks about this, right? Jesus tells them who their father is. So when we look up that, when we see it and we get to, want me to go back and tell y'all, like John in the Gospel of John, Jesus told the Pharisees that their father was the devil. I may have said that pretty fast. I don't want to lose it. So Jesus is identifying it's Father's Day, right? Yeah. Jesus is identifying paternity. Imagine having a verbal paternity test. I mean, I grew up watching TV, and I'm just going to be honest. Maury show was happening on TV when you had a good day off from school. And I mean, can you imagine when Jesus opens up this letter for the Pharisees, the amount of running that they did throughout the cameraman followed them all around Jerusalem? Oh, God, no, okay. But Jesus did a paternity test not based off of birth. This paternity was identified in a place where it had to be spirit. Now, I could go back to John 3 and tell you what he said to Nicodemus, saying, hey, fool, you already been born in flesh. You already make the fleshly requirement, but you're meeting the spiritual requirement. And again, we see here in Matthew 25 that Jesus is talking of those spiritual requirements. Are you of the spiritual requirement of obedience or disobedience? And then it leads you to say, well, should I be obedient to the talents, the giving, the faith? What am I being obedient to? These things in my flesh may waver. The moral of the story is be obedient to the master, no matter what you may think about your financial. And again, I'm not bringing money here. I'm just talking about the women who had their 10 lamps. No matter what you may feel about your financial situation, the master's order is what needs to be in front of yours. Meaning, if I have $5 and I have 5 lamps, and I know I need all of that to fill up those lamps, but I may be broke and hungry and may need food in the process, I better fill up my lamps because that's the master's plan. If I have a talent to be used, and it's mine, and he tells me, go forth and use it, I better do it, no matter if I feel like I'm a failure in life. No matter how I feel about my faith, if he tells me I better use it to keep it prepared, to be ready, I better do it. If you don't see obedience in these texts, you're living for yourself. Everything in these scriptures points to your aid of someone else. What was read this morning? Love, right? First, God. God tells you that if you're doing this for them, you're doing it for who? Him. So that's the love of him right there. Then secondly, he gives you a physical body or being to actually do this for. All of the things that we see in these people neglected was what was the disobedience. They did it for self. The same disobedience that Adam carried. He did it for self. The opposite, the obedience that Christ carried is he did it for everyone else. Where is your obedience leading you to? In your faith. Is this faith just for you? Yes, the Lord has already given you faith. Everyone in here had possessed, as we've been reading in Ephesians, you possess the armor because you possess Christ. So he's given you these things. This is for us to help those around us to build up, to work in. Even if the light is for ourselves, the faith that we carry, we have to carry it because it lights up for us and others get to see it. Or in this case, they didn't get to see it. We know the parable only gave us 10. Talks about 10 people. But banquets normally have more than 20, more than 10 people. You get where I'm going with this? He pulled out these 10 for the story. Yes. Give us 10. But if I multiplied the crowd, right? Who do you think in the crowd, someone would have said, hey, what are you doing today? Well, I'm going to buy my oil so I can prepare for the banquet. Well, I'm going to do that too. Verse, hey, what are you doing today? Well, I got enough oil. You see how we could use our faith to push other people to do great things. So when the banquet does come, they're prepared. If we go back in Matthew 22, Jesus Christ is talking about a banquet, preparation for, going out and bringing people in, making sure that they were ready, because that was one of the things, but that's a whole nother story for a whole nother time. So as we work through all of these things and we see the oil, the talent, the unintentional acts of kindness, we see the true consequences of an action. This verse highlights that verse highlights the consequences of inaction and lack of compassion. Remember, we were talking about Matthew 41 through 46. That lack of compassion resulting in internal punishment. We have Revelations 20:15. You can take that down. I'm not going to read it to you. This was Jesus talking about the eternal punishment. Satan and his angels being cast. And Matthew 5:29 through 30, which we have already, which we're talking about. And those entering were male. I say this to show you that God in this judgment, right or left, sheep or goat, we know who sits at the right hand of the throne. But when we see this right or left judgment, we see that God is not just judging an individual, he's judging all flesh because all flesh was his to judge. And those that entered into the ark, remember we're talking about, I'm taking this back to Genesis 17:16. And those that entered in the ark, male and female, all flesh, went in as God had commanded, and the Lord had shut them in. The same way the Lord shut the righteous in, he shut the unrighteous out. There is a choice. There is a choice in the scriptures. The choice is simple. A lot of people will tell you that it's free will. Very much so. The Lord is not holding you to a place to force you in communion with him. But what he is doing is offering every man an opportunity to come in. If you reject that opportunity, then it's basically saying this: you have rejected not my opportunity, but my son, because my son was the opportunity. We read these verses and we know that Jesus hadn't yet went to the cross. So these teachings was probably kingdom related, but an understanding that most would have struggled to see. But yet, as Jesus taught them the words of the scriptures, he showed them that this is the kingdom and how you gain entrance. What are you going to do with the information? Are you going to be obedient to what I did to my son and the works that he did on this earth? Because being obedient to that means that you have accepted from the foundation of the world what I created, which was resurrection for the believer. But if you reject that, then what is a loving God to do but to give you what you want? This is why he says it was never prepared for you, this place of disobedience. just like the consequences of inaction was not a preparation that was prepared for you. It was a result of your inaction. I think about myself and, you know, I look at my life. And as I look at my life, I think about a lot of things that were results of my inactions and results of my actions. Once I became aware that those things really just were grounded in two simple things in life before I even got to the scriptures was obedience. Something my mother used to always tell me, but I ignored because that would make me ignorant. The scripture talks about the ignorant. We think it's those that are unwise. It's those that ignore the things that are right in front of them. Those that ignore the fact that you do carry a faith that is full, but yet you still need to have a reserve. Those that ignore that you do have a talent that you should be using for the world around you, whatever it may be. It might just be conversation. Might not be standing in front of anybody. It may be something as simple as just telling somebody, hey man, having a good day? Yeah, I'm having a great day. You want to talk about it? How'd you know? You never know with your talent in conversation, because these are the things that we shape each other with, the words. That's why we edify, we lift up. But you never know when you will be doing kindness for the Lord. So keep working. We see the consequences that come along with those in action. So we had to wrap these three parables up, which I kind of been saying here, but I'm going to give them to you as if they're off my notes if you'd like to take notes. So the moral of this is seeing without seeing. Core sight. The failure in all three parables is the same. They never truly see the bridegroom, the master, or God in their midst. It's blocked to them, just like blind people following troops through Samaria, because they only believe what they could see with the natural eyes. The virgins did not believe that he could be delayed. This is something that most people will see and think, but because the virgins were saying, hey, I have enough, but they never could see past him being delayed. They all knew about the bridegroom, but only some trusted his promise beyond their sight. They all slept equally. They all waited equally, but some prepared for the reality that they could not see, very much like Noah. The others believed only what appeared probable. The Lord had watered the midst of the earth, and it had not yet rained. The bridegroom had not returned. Therefore, they didn't anticipate him to be late. Even though he hadn't returned, he left. He could be anything if you leave. All possibilities exist. The others believed only what happened could be probable. Watch, therefore, equals learn to see beyond immediacy. Learn to see past what's right in front of you. Learn to carry a faith past where we stand. And we all know as believers that we stand somewhere in the you are place there, but we believe that we are there at the end. The talents, they did not believe the master's heart. The unfaithful servant says, I knew you to be a hard man. He saw power, wealth, and distance, but he never recognized the relationship. The master left the house and gave them talents. Bless you. You get what I'm saying? These people couldn't really see the person that they were dealing with because everything was so wrapped up in the consequences of the things they had, who they were, wrapped up in what we would see as a very self-righteous way of thinking. They could not see the master. He gave them talents and left. I don't know too many people in this room that would give me $5 and just leave. Again, that's just a joke. I know a lot of people give me $5 because y'all love me. In fact, when y'all want to give me $5 afterwards, just kidding. But what I'm saying is, let alone in this world, someone is going to give you what a talent is worth, free of charge, and leaving to boot. Do you understand that the master's heart was way bigger than the servant saw? The Lord has given each and every one of you in here life. packed full of all different things: fatherhood, motherhood, sisterhood, brotherhood, the hood, depending on where you grew up at. But what I say is this: he's giving it to you. But if you only see a hard master that at the end of your life that you're going to be afraid of, if you only see someone who gave you wealth because he was rich and that's just what a rich person does, or if you only see him as someone as distant, then you can't truly see the end result of the whole story. But they never recognize that relationship. People don't just give you a talent. You have to be in a relationship with them in the beginning, even if you don't know it. He judged the servant judged the master by appearance, not truth. And he only followed in fear. Saddest part is how many believers follow the Lord in fear, not truly understanding that we follow the Lord in fear too, but a whole different type. Reverence, awe. Words have changed and they made people afraid. The sheep and the goat, they did not believe God could appear hidden. Both groups say, "When did I see?" The goats did not reject Christ openly. They simply never believed he would come in disguise. They expected God's authority, splendor, control. They missed him in need, weakness, and humanity. Now, I know people will say those are things that aren't attributes of God. God has all those. But what he did is he put them in the human condition for us to work with each other, to show his glory in every action that we do to our fellow believers and the non-believers around. It's not just limited to the people who believe in faith, because how else do those who are unbelief come in but seeing the unintentional acts of kindness that we do, the love that we carry, the passion that we share? They have to see it. So now we see why these actions are so harsh, because it's not just judgment of the people. The people in every one of these parables judged God. And you should never do that, because his judgment is greater. The unifying moral failure is this. And all three, knowledge existed, proximity existed, religion existed, but faith did not, because faith is sight without eyes. We walk by faith, not by sight. The decisive line is this: they never saw because they only believed with their eyes allowed. And because they did not believe, they could not recognize him when he stood amongst them. Why this matters? This is the same failure. Israel had Christ in their midst, and yet they rejected him constantly. Even though we know this fulfills scripture, the rejection allowed for the nations to come in to be grafted. The cross was being rejected. Most people see the cross and they say it either didn't happen or it did. But we see that has been rejected. The resurrection is doubted, saying there is no coming back. This is something that has been argued about, talked about, passed about through everything else. All of these things symbolize one thing. The tragedy of Matthew 25 is not that some did not act, but that some never learned to see. I say this, that as we look at these scriptures and as we look at the parables, let's always look deeper into the matter and realize that, yes, they are telling us to be good people. They are telling us to maintain faith. They are telling us to walk. But if you look at all of those ways, they all point back to you. What this parable really tells the believer is that you never know when you'll see God, but always believe that you will. You must walk and see the unseen. God is love, and love is as the core substitute. I think that's enough for me today. Everybody else had enough? I had enough. Yeah, I could go more now. I just this thing keep going. But I think the message has hit. And the next thing it kind of rolls into the completion of what Christ did inside of this message. As believers, I do believe that we have to see God in all of that he is, all of his being that he presents us via the scriptures, even in parables. He presents himself as a loving king that is willing to give you before you actually earned. Life was given to you, to each and every one in this room, before it was earned. It was given. The faith that was given to you was given to you before you had to earn it. The talents that we get to use amongst others, I don't care what it may be. Let nobody crush your talent for what it is. But whatever it may be, it was given to you before you had to earn it. He doesn't even stop you if you don't even properly operate in your talent. He will let you keep on doing it until it's perfected in his eyes because it's for his glory. I remember the first, and again, I'm shutting my mouth after this. I remember the first time I ever, had a barbecue down here. And I was with some guys. They was all from down south, and they cooked out all the time. I'm a city boy. I wasn't unless it was a grill on the sidewalk or going to the barbecue joint. That was about as far as we went. Barbecuing wasn't a thing for me. When we went down south, I stayed away from the grill. I was too busy having fun in the yard, having my fun. But when I made my first rack of ribs, oh yeah, I charred them. I charred them about as black as this white watch band, and they still never let me live it down. But you know what my friends did the very next weekend? They came right back, made jokes, but allowed me to cook again and cook again and cook again and cook again. And so now I can make some pretty good ribs. So if you think God isn't watching your faith, watching your talent, watching you do these random acts of unintentional kindness, don't worry about if you fail. Don't worry about if you get it right. Just know the Lord is there with you because he did not put you out on a start for you to fail. Failure comes in disobedience, and disobedience shows your father, and your father shows the place that was not prepared for you, but there's a chance that you may go. But why would you when he's already given you so much love? You got talent, you got faith, and shoot, I can tell you some of those random acts of kindness has been displayed fully by everyone in this room. You might not know where you melted somebody's heart or made somebody smile or uplifted somebody's day, but just know you did. And God appreciates it because we just read it in the scriptures. The scriptures are truth. Questions, comments, concerns? Did I miss anything? I don't know. Y'all tell me later.